So this is the question I would ask is what is the problem they're trying to solve? Because in general, kids tend to be quite colorblind, actually. And what we're doing is we're dividing them based on their color now. We're saying, actually, you white people are the oppressors, you colored people are very oppressed. And that's quite self-prophesizing, you know. If you tell someone they're being held back, they will never achieve because of the color of their skin, they're going to start to believe it and they'll start being held back and they won't achieve as much. What we need to say is, actually, we're all British. These are things that we all celebrate. We can all get behind these. Let's remain united. And the only thing holding you back is yourself. Don't subscribe to this victimhood mentality. Don't think that your identity is solely based on the color of your skin. Be proud to be part of this amazing society that we have to live in, and use that as a ladder to climb to success.
Hello and welcome to Reasoned UK with me, Darren Grimes. We're the channel that asks you to think more and follow less. I'm joined by Calvin Robinson. Calvin is a teacher who I think offers a really unique insight, one he tried to give on ITV's Good Morning Britain, but was shot down. So give it a watch, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comment section. Cheers.
I'd just like to start, Calvin, by asking you how you got involved in teaching and actually why you got involved in teaching.
Oh, that's a good question. Not many people ask that one. I was in industry. I was working in the technology industry, having a load of fun. But most of the development work we did, so we made websites and mobile apps and that kind of thing. And most of the work we did, we outsourced it to Eastern Asia and Eastern Europe. And I was kind of thinking, you know, why are we doing this? Where's all the homegrown talent? We've got all these young programmers. Where are they? Why can't we find them and recruit them in Britain? Mm-hmm. And it looked like they didn't exist. People would come to us with CVs and they'd have amazing qualifications, but no skills and no knowledge. So we just couldn't use them. So I looked at that and thought, maybe I can do something about this. Maybe I can make a difference here. And I looked into, there was a new teacher training scheme at the time. You can jump into the job in the deep end, and as long as you have the qualifications, you can train on the job. So I had to go at that and started teaching computer science. And then I realized, there's so many barriers to entry that we have to break down. And there's a massive digital deficit there that, we've got a lot of work to do. But thankfully, I think our government was on the case. And, I got involved with just when Michael Gove's new curriculum came into play, which turned it from IT, which was, spreadsheets and all of that boring stuff, into computer science, which was, making apps and developing and programming and all the great stuff that we need to be doing. So it just all lined up in perfect timing, really.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it rewarding? Is there anything quite like being able to, watch someone grow and develop?
Yeah, Darren, it is so rewarding. It is the most, honestly, when you see that spark ignite in a student, you see them just get it and they kind of get enthusiastic for your subject and they're learning and they're getting a passion for knowledge. Nothing else is like that. I mean, I've been in jobs where, you get big contracts, you get big rewards, make a lot of money and stuff. That's great. But there's nothing more fulfilling than passing on knowledge to the next generation and seeing them become enthused by it.
Now, Calvin, you made the case recently, if we turn to the meat of the subject today, you made the case recently on Good Morning Britain that Rosa Parks and Mary Seacole are just a couple of influential black figures that are covered in the national curriculum for history as early as Key Stage 1, I believe. Yeah. So that's, kids as young as 5, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who were told, and you were told rather, that this isn't the case. You were told that you're mistaken. And actually, let's play the clip now so our viewers can actually see what we're talking about, and then I'll have you explain the background of your interview, your appearance on Good Morning Britain, and what happened. Right, let's play the clip.
Surely educating everybody more about who we are as a nation and how we came together has got to be a good thing. We're sort of confused as to why you're not for it.
I'm all for educating people more. I love education. It's why I became a school teacher in the first place. But my point is that the curriculum already covers the Commonwealth. We already cover Nelson Mandela and Rosa Parks and Mary Seacole. We do have lots of black figures on the curriculum.
Calvin, I'm going to stop. Calvin, I'm going to stop. Calvin, I'm going to stop you there. No, Calvin, I'm going to stop you there. Hang on, Calvin, I'm going to stop you there because you keep saying that, and we've identified it doesn't.
Could you just give us the background of why you were invited to appear and actually what happened in the course of that exchange?
Sure. GMB have called me up a number of times. This was the 4th time I'd been invited on the show, and I've always avoided it because
Well,
I think we've
Piers
gotten
Morgan, for one.
Well, for Piers Morgan, for one, I mean, he's very sound on a lot of things, but he does play this game quite well. And I think we're at a point now in the UK, we've followed the US trend in that journalists are no longer reporting on the news. They're trying to they're trying to shape the news. And they want to be the story rather than reporting the story. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be, because it's all about the capture moments, isn't it? They want to catch people out and point you out to be a bad guy. And I know that, I'm quite a right-wing guy, Darren. I know they're going to get me on with a load of lefties, and they're going to be like, oh, this guy's an evil Tory or whatever. This guy fought for Brexit, whatever the argument might be. And I don't have a problem being the minority voice, but as long as I know that my voice is going to be heard. So I thought, Piers is off. Let's give it a chance. And Adil, God bless him, I think he had good intentions. He had a bit of Wikipedia background. He probably Googled a few things on the curriculum beforehand, or his producers probably did. But he was wrong, and he didn't let me express my thoughts or my opinions on this.
And he was the presenter that interjected, wasn't he? He was the presenter that interrupted, yeah.
So we had two other guests as well as myself. One was an educationist, one was a historian. We had the two presenters and the weatherman. So we had 5 people all chiming in against me, saying how bad and how wrong I am. And none of them would let me finish a sentence. Whereas, this nice historian lady, which was ranting on for about 5 minutes, no one could hear what she was saying with the audio issues. So it's unbalanced. But the point I was trying to make, Darren, is that, our curriculum is very broad. It's very balanced. We've got a lot of things on there. And it splits into 2. It's got British history and world history, as it should be. It's not black history, white history, female history, male history, whatever. It is just our history and then the global history. And like I said, we've got Rosa Parks, we've got Mary Seacole, we've got these people, we've got Nelson Mandela, we've got the empire, the slave trade, civil rights. All of these things are covered on the curriculum. So the argument that we need to make it more black, first of all, is patronizing. But secondly, it's just wrong. It doesn't make any sense.
And if we go back in time ever so slightly to the start of lockdown, obviously schools were hardly functioning whatsoever. But when the Black Lives Matter movement, after the death of George Floyd, of course, in the United States of America, when that movement swept across to this side of the Atlantic, across the Atlantic, there was many people putting forward arguments, and I believe that happened in your Good Morning Britain interview as well, where people were arguing for this idea that children need to be taught more about black history, as you've just said, about empire and about colonialism. Do you think there needs to be more of those discussions on the curriculum? Because you've mentioned a few examples, you've mentioned, but do you think there needs to be more or less or what? What's your view?
I think we have to be careful. I think, I am an ethnic minority in this country, right? For example, I don't think that the entire curriculum should be focused on me in particular. I think that's very strange. It would be overcompensating. It would be misrepresenting. It's not something that anyone needs. But I'm not saying we shouldn't have these important conversations. And what happened in America with George Floyd was horrible. It's a disastrous situation to be in. Nobody would want to see that happen over here. But I don't think we would see that happen over here. What we're seeing is, schools, head teachers are being pressured into responding, and rightly so. It's a national event kind of now. It's taken a lot of people's imaginations on board. So what we have is very dangerous critical race theory being pushed on schools. Schools are being told they need to look at white privilege, white fragility, and it's the whole argument that everyone's racist by default, and if you say that you're not, that proves that you're a racist. It's one of these things you can't even challenge. So we've gotten to a point that's quite dangerous. What we need to be doing is having more open conversations, having these debates and saying, look, first of all, before we teach about white privilege, is white privilege a thing? Can you evidence that? Where is the research into that? And also, if you're arguing that the curriculum needs to become more diverse, more inclusive, is that the same as saying we need to teach about more black history? And if it is, where's the evidence that we're not already teaching enough black history? People like Adil would argue with me. He said, when I was in school, we didn't learn. That's an anecdote. That's not evidence. I need to know what is being taught in schools right now. Where is the research into that? No one knows. Our curriculum is great, but not everyone has to teach to the curriculum. So maybe there is an issue that we need to do more of teaching of this kind of stuff. I don't know it. Who does know it? I'd like to see that, first of all. And, we've had Black History Month for decades now. Has that worked? If it hasn't worked, we need to look at different approaches. Maybe like Morgan Freeman says, people don't want their whole identity shoved into a single month and said, that's yours. Where, like he said, where is the Women's History Month? Where's the Jewish History Month? It's patronizing, it's condescending. Nobody wants it.
Now, there are pictures that were circulating at the start of the movement really coming into the media's spotlight, where you had white children taking the knee, for example, and I mean children, little. I remember that one image of that little girl on her knees, and I wonder, Calvin, and I'm really keen actually to hear what you've got to say about this, but are we at risk about making it impossible because I've seen that there's a lot of Black Lives Matter material being circulated in our schools, and I wonder, do you think, are we at risk of a genuine point of solidarity between, white students and black students, of making it impossible to actually achieve that point of solidarity? Are we actually just dividing and not actually bringing people together?
Yeah, this is it. So this is the question I would ask, is what is the problem they're trying to solve? Because in general, kids tend to be quite colorblind, actually. And what we're doing is we're dividing them based on their color now. We're saying, actually, you white people are the oppressors, you colored people are very oppressed. And that's quite self-prophesizing, If you tell someone they're being held back, they will never achieve because of the color of their skin, they're going to start to believe it and they'll start being held back and they won't achieve as much. What we need to say is, actually, we're all British. These are things that we all celebrate. We can all get behind these. Let's remain united. And the only thing holding you back is yourself. Don't subscribe to this victimhood mentality. Don't think that your identity is solely based on the color of your skin. Be proud to be part of this amazing society that we have to live in, and use that as a ladder to climb to success.
But if we think then some of the arguments behind, I guess, recognizing white privilege and recognizing that we are a product of our past, that's the argument behind putting more black voices and I guess people that have forged part of Britain's present on the curriculum, as an example. And in order to recognise that there are racial inequalities present in modern society, don't we have to understand why they exist?
Yes,
does that make sense? It's about recognising that the present is a product of our past, right?
Yeah, and that's why we teach history. So here are some of the modules we've got in the curriculum already. How Britain gained an empire, how Britain lost an empire, British migration throughout the empire, Commonwealth immigrants, the growth of Asia and African communities, the diversity of European migrants. So we're covering a lot of this stuff from our history. We are looking at it. Just before I came on this chat with you today, I had a meme pop up on my Facebook. It said, history is not there for you to like or dislike. It is there for you to learn from it. And if it offends you, even better, because then you are less likely to repeat it. And it's not yours to erase. It belongs to all of us. And I think that's quite, that's succinct and really spot on, because it's not about making the curriculum to please us. It's about covering where we've been so we can learn from it. And that's what we're doing at the moment. If we adjust the curriculum to make it more black, is that just appeasing the Black Lives Matter movement? Where's the argument to make the history curriculum teach more about gay history? Where's the curriculum argument to teach more about female history? Why is it in particular black history? What about Asians? What about all of the other minorities? What we should do is just look at our past, take it all on board, and I'm all for looking at history. What I will say is, if they say, look, we need more black figures, I'll say, okay, which other people should we take off the curriculum? If you're saying we need to teach more about African history, are we going to take the Tudors off? Because the curriculum is a zero-sum game. We've only got so much time to teach young people.
That's a good point.
Curated it based on expert opinion on what we think young people need to learn. If people are telling us we need to add more to it, please let us know what we need to take off as well.
Now, do you think that there's a risk here of encouraging our children to adopt a sort of victim mentality? If you are told that being black, you're told that white people are extremely privileged and you're going to have a pretty sorry lot in life. Are we at risk of encouraging a victim mentality?
We are, and I don't get that, because why is history of Britain not your history too? And I say that to everyone who says that we need to teach X, Y, Z history. We are teaching all of our history, and not everyone who's black identifies as being black first and foremost. That's not the core of everyone's identity. I would say I'm British first and foremost, or Christian first and foremost, rather than black or BME or POC or whatever it is I'm supposed to call myself these days. And I think you see that a lot. For example, would a black British Nigerian person identify the same as a black British Caribbean person? If not, which history are we supposed to be addressing? And to answer your question, yes, we are feeding into that victimhood mentality. We're saying it's very much the Labour mandate that we are being held down because we are ethnic minorities, and certain people need to unlock our potential. And what that does is it makes us dependent. It makes us reliant on certain people to reach our potential. Well, I'm not. I can do what I want when I want. I'll work hard to get my qualifications, and I'll work hard to get a good job, and then I'll look after my family. That's the way it should be. It doesn't matter what colour you are. You don't need to be helped to do that. It's all about that, as David Cameron said, give people a hand up, not a handout. And I think that's very much what we should be doing.
To what extent do you think this is less about learning from our history for some of the activists? I'm thinking especially with those with more Marxist tendencies. Less about learning from our history and more about building up a new narrative of what or who Britain is.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think when you think about what makes up our identities, so, our culture, our family, our upbringing, the books we've read, our family background, all of these things make up our identity. But what they're wanting to do is shift it onto something else that they control. It's all about the narrative that they control. And if you look at, for example, Black Lives Matter, their manifesto on their website, they'll say they're against the family unit. They're against capitalism. They're against all of these things. And we know they're against Jewish people in Israel, as we've seen on the tweets. So they're setting their own political agenda, and they're using black people as an excuse to get this done, because no one wants to be seen as being racist. So if they call themselves anti-racists rather than social Marxists, it's easier to get their message across and easier for them to shut down the opposing perspectives.
Yeah. So if I was to call up Her Majesty the Queen and I was to say, listen, I've got this bloke Calvin and I think he'd make a fantastic Secretary of State for Education, put him in the Lords and we'll get it sorted. And you were to become Lord Robinson and you were Secretary of State for Education. And I said to you, come on, sort out the curriculum. What would be your ideal curriculum as far as teaching our kids about our history? What would you actually... You mentioned the Tudors. Do you think that's all a very important part of our past that obviously shaped modern Britain to a big extent, actually? There are so many things in that we enjoy today that you can trace back quite beautifully. We are lucky to have such a rich history. Obviously, it has its real, I guess, not moments to be proud of, but it also does have moments that we can really be proud of and unite around, doesn't it? How would you like to see the curriculum shaped if you were to change it?
I think if I was to become the Education Secretary, the curriculum is one thing I wouldn't change. I think Michael Gove's initiatives were fantastic, very broad, very balanced, focused on knowledge as it should be, rather than all the fluffy skill stuff. We shouldn't meddle with that. In fact, we should leave that for a while, because we're starting to see the results coming through, and kids are learning more. It's a great thing to do. So let's leave the curriculum. What I would say is let's focus on standards first of all. So right now we've got a culture of lowering standards. Making it easier to achieve results. Things like saying, they come from a disadvantaged background, they don't have to do their homework. Or, they're a black or ethnic minority, let's not expect the same thing from them as we would from other people. And what that's doing is saying, you're not as good as these people. Rather than what we should be doing is raising standards for everyone. And people will see that kids always meet those expectations. They want high standards. They want high expectations. They want to learn. They want boundaries and all of these things that we need to give them. So I'd focus on the standards, and then I'd focus on behavior. That's the biggest thing holding back our young people right now. Throughout the country, we've got schools where kids are running riot, throwing chairs at each other, all kinds of madness. So it doesn't matter how good the curriculum is, they can't access it. What we need to do is look at schools like Michaela, Bedford Free School, West London Free School, King Solomon, Dixon's Trinity. There are a handful of schools that have got this spot on. And what they're doing is saying, look, we'll have a teacher. That teacher is the expert in the classroom. You kids will be quiet. You'll pay attention. You'll listen to that expert and you'll gain a lot of knowledge. And in that, you'll get good results and you'll become better people and you'll be able to go into university, or if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. But you'll be set up for the best possible start in life, rather than this whole fluffy argument of, oh, let them decide what they want to learn. Kids don't know what they want to learn. They don't know what they don't know. That's our job as the experts, as the teachers, to provide that knowledge that we know that they need to learn. So I'd focus on behavior and standards.
Absolutely. I mean, do you think it's acceptable to be proud of British history?
It is. Well, it isn't acceptable at the moment. It should be acceptable. Absolutely. Some schools have started to take this on board. You'll learn the national anthem now, which is part of our cultural heritage. It is. And that's another thing about social mobility for me. I think if we want kids to be able to achieve in life and mix in different circles and kind of get to different places, they need to know things like Jerusalem and the national anthem and the Lord's Prayer. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be a Christian or everyone needs to agree with all these things, but you need to know the things that have made us what we are, who we are, and they have prominence in our cultural heritage. And we need to be proud of our culture and kind of teach it rather than being ashamed of it and being embarrassed by it. I'm all for being inclusive. Inclusive is fantastic. Bring more people on board, great. But that doesn't mean watering down what we are. That means we're proud of this. Here, you can be a part of it too.
I mean, that's really interesting to me because I find it astounding that things like the national anthem are shunned in our schools. I look to the United States of America, and pledging allegiance to the flag. I think being British and the fantastic race relations that we enjoy in this country, and long may that be the case, I feel deep concern by those who want to divide us. And I really find that it's morally objectionable, but also it's plain daft and it's playing with fire. It really, really is. But I think one way to bring us all together, and especially where our schools are concerned, is to gather under the banner of our flag, of everything good about being British. I mentioned the fantastic race relations that we enjoy, but surely the whole point of teaching British history is to remind our kids that, no matter what your skin colour, no matter what your background, at the end of the day, you're British, and that is very important for many reasons, not least because it says that if you work bloody hard, you will be able to make something of your life.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. In America, they do this well. They have the American dream. They have the allegiance to the flag. Over here, again, we're embarrassed to do that kind of thing. And we have our Queen. We should be swearing allegiance to the Queen. We should be singing the national anthem, and we should be proud to promote British values, democracy, the rule of law, tolerance and inclusion. These are things that, people say, oh, they're not British values, they're not exclusive. I'm not saying they are exclusive, but they're certainly not received everywhere around the world. I can think of a few places that don't celebrate those values. So we should be proud that we do. And we should encourage our young people to say, actually, yes, we are from our parents might be from different places, but we're all in this school together. We're all part of the school community. We're all part of the British community, and that is a thing to be proud of and celebrate together.
Absolutely. I mean, you sort of touched on this earlier, but I'd like you to elaborate on it a little bit more if you can. I think one of the examples of the sort of bigotry of low expectations that we're seeing at the minute, Oxford University would be a good one, and they announced that any black students who have found George Floyd's death, I can't remember the exact language, disturbing, I think, was used, can apply for special dispensation when it comes to their workload and their exams. Am I being too harsh by calling that the bigotry of low expectations, or do you think that's right? Do you think there is a sort of an expectation that black people just won't do as well in education as their white peers?
Yeah, we're seeing it all over the place now, aren't we? I'm seeing this week alone, there's been a law firm that's saying they're going to make it easier for black people to get in.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
Universities saying they're going to lower the grades to get more black people in. it's disgusting. It really is. It's really patronizing and really sad. It's tokenistic for one, but it's just false for the other. If we want to see more black faces, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, because I believe in, diversity of thought and opinion rather than superficial diversity. But if one of your targets is to see more black faces, encourage more black people through other means. If you need 6 A's to get into your university, keep those 6 A's, but work with schools to make sure that their kids are working hard to get those grades, and look at what the problems are. Don't just lower your boundaries, because then you're going to, like you said, lowering expectations and standards for everybody. So you're going to have a diluted platform of people that haven't met the quality, and that breeds resentment. It's just like positive discrimination, isn't it? I would never want to get a job because of the color of my skin. I want to get a job based on meritocracy because I'm good at what I do. And if I got it based on the color of my skin, I'd think people around me would be resenting me for it, and I'd be embarrassed as hell. It wouldn't be right.
To end then, Calvin, I wonder if you might summarize your own experiences in teaching and your own experiences in life, and of putting your head above the parapet, I guess, to actually get involved in this debate. What would you actually like to see out of the debate moving forward? Because it seems both sides are incredibly polarized now, and I wonder, how would you bring both sides together? What would you actually like to see out of this debate? Because I'm sure you recognize that there is still pockets of racism that exist in this country, right? So how do we, moving forward, challenge that and move forward together, I guess?
Yeah, I think there is racism in this country, but I think before we can address that, we need to kind of celebrate the successes as well, and think, actually, we're one of the most diverse, most inclusive, most acceptable places in the whole world. We're really lucky to live here. Yes, there are things that we still need to address, and we are doing. We've got the CRED commission that's been set up recently. They're going to be looking at all aspects of racial inequality in the UK, which is a great move. But we also need to look at the good things. We're not America. We don't have police violence to that degree over here. It's not the same issue, and we're importing their drama, and that's very dangerous for us because it's kind of stoking division where there was none to begin with. I think if I look back at my family history, where I grew up, my family was the first black family in that town, and my grandparents and my father must have had a very, very tough time compared to what I had. I thought I went through quite a bit of racial discrimination, but compared to what they went through, it's nothing. And likewise, the generation after me is even better. So things are progressing, and we're not recognizing that. And if we kind of think that today is the same as it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, even, not even that long ago, then we're kind of disregarding all the progress that we have made. So let's look at the positive side of it, I would say. And regarding the conversation and how we come back together, I think we need some more tolerance. So every time I speak up about this, I either get called a coon or a race traitor or a white sympathizer, white ally, and all these kind of nasty, to be honest, racist terms for just not subscribing to the approved narrative. And if we want to improve racial relations in this country, we could start in our own communities. And I think, people say since Black Lives Matter riots or protests took off that we've seen more racial discrimination. We have. I personally have seen a lot more racial discrimination, and that's been from my own people, from the black communities. I have experienced very little experience of racism from white people recently because the black people have been too busy calling me names. So let's stop hating each other. Let's stop being hostile. Let's have actual conversations and think, that person doesn't agree with me. Why? Am I wrong? Or are they wrong? Let's bash it out. Let's have a conversation and see if we can meet in the middle. And we can't do that while we're all so entrenched and so negative towards each other.
That's a beautiful way to end it. Thank you very much, Calvin. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Twitter is @CalvinRobinson.
Brilliant. I would recommend everyone do follow you because I think you're great and a refreshing voice, and I think everyone at home will agree that this is probably the most balanced conversation that they've heard on the topic yet, because I'm afraid that the media just doesn't do this sort of thing anymore. As you said at the start there, the media is more interested in those gotcha moments and actually dividing us than they are in bringing us back together. So thank you very much, Calvin.
Thank you for the opportunity, Darren. Cheers.
Reasoned is a grassroots organisation that relies on support from people like yourself who want us to continue producing our free-thinking, high-quality content. You can rest assured whatever you donate, big or small, will be put back into ensuring we win the battle of ideas. Thank you for your support.